FOMO 3D launch date leaked. Yeah, literally, one of the developers had shared at least a possible launch date. They said probably, and they gave a specific date. I'm going to show you that in a second. My name is Mike Klingler. Welcome to Crypto Builder Network, where you can really learn how to use a system to generate cryptocurrency commissions for your favorite programs by studying how I do it. It can be quite liberating. Now, let's go ahead and just jump in. Crypto Knight, who's one of the, very much involved in the Proof of Weak Hands project, which are the same developers coming out with FOMO 3D, he had shared something that Sumpunk, one of the developers, had written. You can see it says here as part of his name, CSS Jedi. He's one of the developers, and he was just responding in a conversation, probably, how's it going? Pretty good. We figured out some issues that we're working on fixing right now so that we can plug the UI in the UI and have it work with the contract. He's referring to the launch of FOMO 3D. Hopefully we can deliver public testnet during next weekend then. Now, this was posted by Crypto Knight on May 21st. I'm recording this on May 22nd. So by next weekend, do they mean this literally coming weekend or the following weekend? I don't know. But this is news. I mean, a lot of people are waiting for FOMO 3D. Now, for those who don't know what FOMO 3D is or what Proof of Weak Hands is, I'm going to run through some of that. I'm going to talk about some issues that I think need to be addressed. A lot of people have been calling it a pyramid or a Ponzi scheme. It's absolutely not. Now, you might think it's a scheme, and you may think it's a scheme you don't want to be involved with, but do not confuse it with a Ponzi scheme. We're talking about that, and the way that I'm going to go over this, I think it's going to help people really understand, what is a Ponzi scheme, what isn't, and I think this will be really helpful because a lot of people get that wrong. Okay, so let's look at who was there when this was announced, when this sounds like pretty solid possible launch date being that close to being next weekend was announced. JustoBot was there. He's one of the core developers. P3D bot was there. He's one of the supporters. A lot of times, if someone posts something and it's incorrect or they feel like it's out of line, they'll come in and correct them, and nobody corrected them. See, JustoBot, here's one of the core developers. He was there. Sumpunk, as this is showing, is one of the decentralized developers. He's the one that said it about the FOMO 3D launch date. Crypto Knight was the one that posted it, and P3D bot was one of them. These are community staff. So they didn't correct them. So that sounds like they must feel like that's pretty in line now. I'm sure they're feeling some pressure to get this launched. And I've, developed a lot of pretty large enterprise solutions, not on the blockchain, but, web development projects that were pretty significantly large, comprehensive. And a lot of times we think that the launch date was going to be in a week or so, and it ended up being much further out. But what that means is they're pushing. I think they know that the community needs this because they build a lot of excitement around it. Now, for those who don't know what all of this is and what's happening, I want to cover that because there is something significant behind Proof of Weak Hands and potentially FOMO 3D, but more importantly, the whole ecosystem that they're creating. I want to talk about that because I'm not just here for Proof of Weak Hands, and I'm not just here for FOMO 3D. I like the integrity of these guys. I'm going to talk about that in a moment. And I like the ecosystem vision and what they've proven that they're able to do. And I'm a marketer. I'm not a tech guy. And as a marketer, I look for opportunities in the cryptocurrency market to be able to, kind of be a part of something that is going to turn into something much bigger, have, large returns as we go forward, be able to empower the people who follow what I do and use the systems that I use to generate leads and cryptocurrency commissions. I like to show people how to do that in a higher leveraging way. I'm not a tech mind, but I am excited about what the blockchain and the crypto market can do. I think a lot of people are missing the bigger point and the bigger picture of Proof of Weak Hands, what these developers doing, and FOMO 3D and everything else that's coming out. So I'm going to talk a little bit about that. And one thing I wanted to mention, somebody was concerned they're going to miss out when FOMO 3D launches, and he said, I promise it won't just be randomly dropped. We'll have a countdown. So they're going to, give people plenty of notice. So if you're involved with Proof of Weak Hands, be sure to just log in every once in a while, and it sounds like you'll have plenty of notice. Now, those that don't know, Proof of Weak Hands, and the token's called P3D, is an Ethereum smart contract. Now, those who don't know what that is, an Ethereum smart contract is a decentralized setup where when you buy into the contract and there's no centralized place holding your money, there's no individuals that can just run off with that money. Now, a lot of people have pushed back on that concept, saying, well, they could, put something in the code that allows them a backdoor in, and certainly that's happened with other smart contracts. Now, a smart contract is something that, a lot of people are using in lots of different ways. That's what makes Ethereum valuable, is the potential of being able to build these smart contracts off of Ethereum. The way that they're using it is to allow people to be able to buy into what they call an exchange that allows you to get dividends paid to you in Ethereum. Now, a lot of people have called this a pyramid scheme. I'm going to address why it may be a scheme. That's not always a negative thing. It's definitely not a pyramid, and it's definitely not a scam, and I'm going to talk about why. It doesn't mean you should participate. I'm not telling you should or you should not. I just want people to understand what all that really means, what's really going on, and to really put it in perspective, because Jamie Dimon calls Bitcoin a pyramid scheme, and he's highly educated. And a lot of people that are educated at Harvard and Yale that work at banks, and no matter what you think of them or their mindset, arguably are very quite certainly some of the most experienced business people in the world call Bitcoin a pyramid scheme. We're going to talk about why they call it a pyramid scheme, Bitcoin, why that doesn't necessarily mean that it is, obviously, and same thing here, why people are confusing this with one for some of the same reasons, but why it is definitely not. So you guys can get clear on that issue. For those that don't know, Proof of Weak Hands is basically a game that tests weak hands and rewards strong hands. So for any of you who've traded in cryptocurrency, you know that when a price is going down, a Bitcoin or an altcoin, you start to feel, many people, emotional about it, and you start to get what they call weak hands. And if you sell, you are called weak hands. And the concept is, if you're really with something that's going to last the test of time, you're going to be rewarded for having strong hands in Bitcoin or any cryptocurrency. So this is a game to test that, because Proof of Weak Hands, or P3D, the token that is representing Proof of Weak Hands, the price is going up and down, and right now mostly down, but it's brand new. And a lot of the cryptocurrencies, if you look at them, when they launch on the ICO, they go way up and then they go down for a long time and then they go up. I'm not saying that that's what's going to happen here, that it's going to go back up. I'm going to talk about that a little bit, but more what I'm trying to help you understand is this is reflective of what happens in cryptocurrencies, where people get weak hands, and then often you're punished. A lot of you might have experienced this, right? Where you sell too soon when it's going down, 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 and then you sell and then boom, it goes up. This is really training people how to not be so emotional about it, and how to use more a non-emotional approach to the decisions that you make. And it's quite interesting, but there's much more behind it than just that. As I was saying, they're building a whole ecosystem that goes way beyond just this, and that's where this gets exciting, so I want to talk about that. But here's something that got a little weird, and they often do in some of these new developments, right? Even in cryptocurrency, in the traditional cryptocurrency, you see a lot of weird stuff going on, and coins being taken off of Binance for being scammy. That's just happening, across the board whenever you're looking at a developing market of this scale. But here, they had quite a bit of success initially, and I'll show you that in a little bit with Proof of Weak Hands. And then other developers came in and just literally copied what they did and put a new brand on it, and they called them, these were clones. And they had some really wild, crazy branding. And I'm not going to go too much into detail, but these clones spread like wildfire. That caused a lot of people to jump out of Proof of Weak Hands, jump into these other ones. And this is where things get a little weird, because Proof of Weak Hands really has a different kind of culture than that. The core of it and the developers behind it, it's really a long-term vision that's much bigger and more expansive than just right now. And it really rewarded people for long term. But there were some people, of course, that just want to make quick money. So when these new clones appeared, some people, a faction of the people in Proof of Weak Hands would jump into these other clones to try to make a quick buck. But what it really ended up doing was diluting the market and creating this kind of image that Proof of Weak Hands was just kind of this scammy, schemy sort of thing. Now, some of the clones were scammy and schemy. I'm not saying they all were, and for those of you who took part of them, that's fine. I'm not judging you for it, but it did kind of create this look, this appearance that everybody involved with Proof of Weak Hands was into these, like, jumping around and just trying to make a quick buck. And that's really not the core message or culture of Proof of Weak Hands. And I think it's important to separate the clones from what Proof of Weak Hands is all about. And I think that's going to become more obvious as they develop FOMO 3D and a bigger ecosystem. And I do hope you stick around to hear about that, because it really, even if you're not going to participate in some of the early stuff happening here, it's worth watching and it's worth understanding what they're doing with smart contracts, because they're one of the very, very few developers that are actually developing smart contracts that work instead of just white paper. A lot of these tokens out there in the cryptocurrency market, even in some of them on the, the top 100 list on CoinMarketCap, have these white papers with these amazing visions of what they're going to do with the $80 million that they raised or whatever. And yet, do they really have the skill to follow through and finish what they're saying they're going to? I'm talking about those currencies, those tokens that have taken in a lot of money with their ICOs, they're trading, but they don't actually have a working smart contract. They don't actually have a working anything. So it's interesting that these guys are really committed to creating smart contracts that work. You may not like what the smart contracts do, but that's kind of beside the point in the bigger picture, that they are creating smart contracts that work, and they're going to keep expanding this. And the likelihood of them creating smart contracts that you are interested in is pretty high. They definitely know what they're doing. The clones seem to be running out of steam. They're getting diluted. We'll see what happens there. The community in Proof of Weak Hands, that's really committed to the bigger vision and sees the deeper value of what's happening here and where this can all go with the ecosystem expanding into many other completely different things. They're all anticipating the launch of FOMO 3D, which is a completely new game, but that's going to work kind of in concert in a way with Proof of Weak Hands and the P3D, and reward people with the P3D token. So FOMO 3D is coming out soon. As I said, the launch date potentially said to be next weekend, or at least the test net. That's the test version of it, which I think would get people excited in the community if they were able to see that. FOMO 3D is a game. It's a completely new game. It's a completely separate game from Power of Weak Hands, much more comprehensive, far more comprehensive. People will pay in Ethereum to play FOMO 3D, and apparently winners take all. And it sounds like you choose to be on a team, and I'm just speculating here based on things that they've said. It sounds like you choose a team, and there's certain things, there's certain actions that team takes to win. And if you're on the team that wins, then you're able to generate a lot of additional Ethereum. Again, don't judge it just on this. Hang with me here for the bigger vision of where this is all going, because there's going to be all kinds of games and all kinds of things, and things that will be developed by other developers that play off of this, that build the value of P3D. And that's the part that I really want people to understand. Now, spectators can be people who, I'm just speculating here, but it sounds like, again, when the test net's launched, which sounds like could be as soon as next weekend, definitely sounds like it's coming up. We'll know a lot more detail, but I'm speculating here. They say that spectators can stake on the game. And my understanding is spectators, the audience watching the game, will be able to stake using P3D, and you can't lose. So it sounds like maybe you can win if you're the people that you stake on win, but you can't lose your P3D. So it sounds like going to be a lot of built-in benefits for those that have P3D. And as the whole ecosystem expands into other games, and as other developers use their SDK kit, their kit for developers, for those that don't know, an SDK is a kit that developers use to create all kinds of different things off of something. They're going to be supplying that, and developers can create all kinds of games that help build the value of P3D. Anyway, that's kind of the bigger picture. Something I want to show you before I go in and talk a little bit more about Proof of Weak Hands, for those that don't know what this is, I like the integrity of the developers. Here you see, he said he was kind of answering someone's questions. I don't predict things, and they really don't. Like that, he goes, I just tell you what it's designed to do. They tell you what the smart contract is designed to do. They don't have exuberance, and this really leads into the conversation of, is this a pyramid scheme? Is this a scam? And the answer is definitely no. I'm going to talk about that, give the definition of a pyramid scheme, and help people get clear on this. And he's answering, FOMO 3D was a completed concept before P3D release. So this is just something I wanted to share real quick that he had said around the same time that the launch date was kind of leaked, or the potential launch date. Where he was saying FOMO 3D isn't just brand new. They've actually been working on that for a very, very long time. And I want to talk a little bit more about the bigger vision. Then I'm going to go into that pyramid conversation so people really understand what a pyramid is, what it isn't, and that P3D, Proof of Weak Hands, and none of this can be called a pyramid or a Ponzi scheme. But first, the bigger vision of where the developers are taking all this, they're creating an SDK. I talked about that. That's a software development kit. It's typically a set of software development tools that allows for the creation of applications for a certain software package, software framework, hardware platform, computer system, video game console, operating system, or similar development platform. So they're giving this SDK. This is common in the cryptocurrency space, fairly common, and other developers are going to be able to create out of it. And in some way, this is going to build an ecosystem off of what they've started here that really starts to paint the picture for how big in scope and scale that this all can get, and that it's way more than just proof of weak hands, and it's way more than just FOMO 3D, but it can become this entire ecosystem that builds the value of P3D, which is the token behind proof of weak hands. So something to pay attention to if you're not into proof of weak hands, or you're not into what you're hearing about FOMO 3D. Pay attention enough to follow what might be happening with this ecosystem that they're creating and what that might develop into. It is very, very interesting, because in the world of Ethereum and all these tokens that are being traded on Binance and the exchanges and that you see on CoinMarketCap, there's a lot of them that have big pie in the sky promises, but probably the teams don't have the skill. In many cases, of course, there's a lot of great ones that do, but most, if not at least many, of the tokens being traded on CoinMarketCap, or sorry, being traded around the market and found on CoinMarketCap, the teams probably don't even have the skill to develop what they're talking about in the smart contracts, or they're talking about in their white paper about what their smart contracts are going to do and what they're developing. So it's kind of a big deal that these guys have actually committed to developing smart contracts that actually work. And that is it's where their integrity's at, is meeting that bar and then expanding it. And just kind of show that integrity a little bit more of the community, and also leads us into the Ponzi scheme conversation. Someone had posted, someone brand new, "Hi guys, just a general question. This was my first smart contract I've been involved in, and I've been digging deeper the last few days, checking out vids, etc. Are smart contracts, specifically P3D, a better investment option?" Now the developers call it a game. Some people do refer to it as an investment option. If comparing it to, say, Bitcoin mining, as in BitClub Network. Appreciate some advice, looking for something that's worth my time and investment. So tired of all the crypto investment scams. So he's saying, how does this compare? How's P3D and what you guys are doing? And you might not know about FOMO 3D yet. How does it all compare to BitClub Network? Now, someone else came in, and this really shows, and again, leads us into the Ponzi scheme conversation really well. It shows that different communities and different groups of people who collect and kind of operate together, birds of a feather flock together, right? And different groups and tribes seem to think different things are Ponzi's, and then other groups don't. This is really interesting, and it moves us into this discussion. He says BCN, which is BitClub Network, looks like a Ponzi with a mining front. Now, I've noticed that the community that's interested in proof of weak hands kind of has that angle, and they may be right. I'm not here to debate and talk about if BitClub Network is a Ponzi scheme. I know a lot of people listening right now might like BitClub Network. You could be the judge of that as I go through the definitions. But this is going to help you start to have a clear idea of why Jamie Dimon and big bankers, some of them, and some highly educated people that have a lot of experience in business are calling Bitcoin a Ponzi scheme, but also why many others don't, myself included. And this is going to help you this conversation is going to start to help you understand, why some people think BitClub Network is a Ponzi scheme. Certainly, I would argue BitConnect was a Ponzi scheme, but this is going to get us into helping you understand why proof of weak hands, FOMO 3D, and the things that these developers are creating are not Ponzi schemes by any stretch of the imagination, even though that's floating around out there. People need to understand this. I brought this in because it also kind of shows the integrity of the group. I'm not saying that this is a Ponzi scheme, but it shows that they're trying to help people understand the difference between value and non-value. And even though you might disagree and you might think, oh, P3D is a Ponzi scheme, well, it doesn't mean anything by itself, does it? We have to compare it to what the collective definition is, and that's what brings meaning in a consensus to something. Let's look at the definition. There's a couple different definitions. Let's see how proof of weak hands or FOMO 3D matches up, and some of the other programs that you might have. Ponzi scheme, a form of fraud, fraud's the key word here, in which belief in the success of a non-existent enterprise. Now, there's no non-existent enterprise associated with proof of weak hands. Everything they say exists. There's no business. They're not pretending there's a business. Anyway, let's read it. A form of fraud in which the belief in the success of a non-existent enterprise is fostered by the payment of quick returns. Now, some people are treating the clones that spun off of this, that these guys had nothing to do with, who copied them, as, there's a portion of what's happening there that does feel Ponzi-ish, where they're moving around and they're looking for quick returns. But that's not the culture of proof of weak hands, not at all. They're looking for long-term dividends and to ride the waves up and down. It's not just going to go up and then collapse. That's the difference. To the first investors for money invested by later investors. So a Ponzi pays the people who came in early from the new people who came in at the bottom of the pyramid, looking at this diagram. And it collapses when it starts to go down because people start to realize, oh, they're not getting their returns anymore. People stop buying in and it collapses. That's not at all what proof of weak hands is. Not anything of the sort. It appears that's what BitConnect was. And some of the other programs out there were really good at thinking there was some enterprise, and some of them we can debate if it was their intention or if they were just being overly exuberant. But a lot of programs burned a lot of people and turned out to look like, whether it was intentional or not, some of them, they were intentional, like BitConnect, in my opinion, they turned out to be Ponzi schemes. They were paying people promised returns from the new people coming in at the bottom. When that started to not work out, when they didn't have enough new funds coming in, they would collapse. That's not at all what proof of weak hands or FOMO 3D is. Here's another definition. A Ponzi scheme is a fraudulent investment operation. Fraudulent's the key word, guys. You have to mislead. I want it to be really clear that everything that the developers say that the smart contract at proof of weak hands, and I assume that's going to carry over to FOMO 3D, everything they say that it's going to do, it does. And that's what they focus on, is just on how the smart contract was built and what it does. And they don't make these huge, exuberant promises that go beyond how the smart contract works. That's really important. There's no fraud here. That's not a scam. So it's ridiculous that anyone would call it a scam or be negative about it. Like, let adults decide to do what they want to take part in. Anyway, look at this definition closely and compare this to your understanding of Ponzi's. A Ponzi scheme is a fraudulent investment operation where the operator provides fabricated reports and generates returns for older investors through revenue paid by new investors rather than from legitimate business activities or profit of financial investing. Not at all what proof of weak hands does. A Ponzi scheme is another definition, is a fraudulent investing scam promising high rates of return with little risk to investors. Not at all what they're promising with this. That's what people misunderstand. And while some short-term kind of limited-minded promoters come in and treat it that way, just at the launch of it and then leave, you can't have that be reflective of the entire market. There's people doing that with every cryptocurrency. There's people that are pushing and pumping every cryptocurrency in such a way that it looks like a Ponzi scheme, but that doesn't mean that all cryptocurrencies are Ponzi schemes. It's really important to understand that. And there's a lot of educated people, as I talked about Jamie Dimon, and there's many others, and I have another video that you'll find on this channel that goes into that in depth. There's a lot of well-educated people in business with very, high, regardless of if you hold Harvard and Yale and decades of experience in banking in high esteem, even if you don't, I don't, in this new model, in this new world. We can't say they don't have business experience. There's a lot of people with incredible amounts of business experience saying Bitcoin and cryptocurrency is a pyramid scheme. And this is why, because a lot of people push it that way. A lot of people pump it that way. In a lot of cases, some of the altcoins, a lot of the cryptocurrencies are pyramid schemes. People come in, they pump them, and they get out. People launch ICOs and raise huge amounts of money that are completely unnecessary. And then, that's the whole game for them. Obviously, there's a lot of great opportunities in cryptocurrency that are legitimate, but you can see why a lot of people might focus on the negatives and call the whole thing a Ponzi scheme. Doesn't mean the whole thing is. So let's go look a little bit. Let's go look at the proof of weak hands site. They had a lot of satire, and that's what I think threw a lot of people off. And they were really being satirical, like they had a little pyramid as part of their logo, and they were poking fun at when they first launched a smart contract. And they do it a little bit now, but they did a lot more at first. They were poking fun at how hypocritical a lot of the industry was, that a lot of the cryptocurrencies were scams, and they were kind of poking fun at that and creating a smart contract that really actually worked. It's kind of an ingenious, way to launch, and I think a lot of people misunderstood what it really all represents. You use terms like shield kit. A lot of people just don't understand what they're doing. And again, as this unfolds and as they develop more, I think it's going to become more clear. But if you look at this case study, this is one of the accounts that I'm looking at. This one here has 8,100 P3D. That's 68 Ethereum at this time. Here's how this works. So this is the proof of we cans. When people buy into it, they buy P3D with Ethereum. They're charged 20% to get into the contract. And then the idea is that they write it out, and every time others buy or sell, and here's the difference again between a pyramid typically you only benefit if more people buy in. Here, even if more people are losing, it doesn't collapse. You're actually getting paid Ethereum and dividends when people are leaving. And the whole idea is you're in it for the long run through the ups and downs, completely different than a pyramid or a Ponzi scheme. Now, again, some people have argued, let me pull up kind of the trend that's happened. You'll see that it's going down right now, which is fine. A lot of cryptocurrencies launch on as ICOs, shoot way up and go down for months, if not a year or more. So there are thousands of people in this contract. There's, at this time, nearly 5,000 Ethereum in the contract. At the account that I was just looking at is number 15 now out of thousands of people, so it's on the higher end. So this account gets quite a bit of dividends every day as people buy and sell. Let me show you the graph though. So you can see kind of how this launched, and some people were in it to make a quick buck, but it's not what it was developed for. If we look at the bigger picture, it launched back in March, early March. It shot way up from almost nothing to almost 20,000 Ethereum, and then it's been going down. There was a brief moment where it kind of went up and going down. But a lot of ICOs look like this, so they launch and then afterwards, and then they go up. So it doesn't mean that it's doomed or that this was the end of the story. First of all, I'm not saying that it won't die. A lot of cryptocurrencies do, or it might take years to bounce back up. Who knows? Might die. That's not the point. The point is a lot of cryptocurrencies do this. And again, the smart contract does what they say it does. So it's not a scam. You need to understand that. Look at gambling. There's online gambling, both in fiat currency, and there's online gambling in cryptocurrency. It's federally not illegal. Some states, they've got laws and rules around it. The reality is there's a lot of people losing a lot of money gambling cryptocurrency and online gambling sites and other fiat gambling sites. No one's jumping them down, screaming, trying to save and protect people there, because we let adults do what they want to do, right? But why is it that people get so excited and negatively excited about programs like Proof of We Can's calling it a Ponzi when it's not? Because they're confused, because BitConnect came along and they immediately assume it's the same kind of deal. But again, you've got to remember, what is the definition of a Ponzi? We went over it. You need to be deceiving. There's got to be some like false enterprise. You got to be promising high returns at least and low to no risk, which these guys aren't doing at all. They're just describing how the smart contract works. Again, the way it works is if you buy and hold your P3D, as people buy and as they sell, you get a cut of the divvies. You can learn more about that. I'll have a video soon that goes into how it all works, but that's basically it in a nutshell. I just wanted to share with you guys what I had seen, that one of the developers had said, hey, FOMO 3D may be launching. Actually, sounds like we can deliver public testnet during next weekend. Does that mean they're going to hit that target? I don't know. But that's the first time I had seen kind of a definitive day or a time that they will be launching. So I wanted to put that out and share that with you, and then talk a little bit about, for those of you just still cloudy or fuzzy on the issue, how we know that Proof of We Cans, which was the first game through the smart contract that they created, is not a pyramid. It's not a Ponzi, not at all. Does that mean it's going to work out? No. But it's not a Ponzi any more than any other crypto that is who have their intentions in the right place. I mean, these guys are creating a smart contract that works. It does what it says it does. Adults should be able to participate if they want to. Come on. And it's not being deceptive in any way. It doesn't meet any of the definitions for a Ponzi. If it's a Ponzi, then so is Bitcoin. and Jamie Dimon and the big bankers who think it's a Ponzi are right. I don't agree whatsoever. Let adults do what they want to do as long as what is promised is what is delivered. Let the innovation begin. And let's see what this ecosystem turns into. It's going to be quite interesting. These guys definitely are smart as heck, and they have high integrity. They don't get over exuberant about things. They're creating and fostering a message throughout their community, their core community, that's dead on in terms of longevity, sustainability, and they're going to be building this whole ecosystem and developing this SDK, the kit for other developers to create an ecosystem that, if I understand correctly, is going to boost the value of P3D over time in an exponential way. Might be something you want to keep your eye on. Now, those of you that want to learn how I do things as a marketer in terms of promoting programs and projects that I believe in or that I think are cool, how I generate leads in huge numbers in an automated way. You can use the same system I'm using. You can even use my marketing. Like, I literally can give everything I'm doing to help you be able to plug in and duplicate that. Look for the link underneath the YouTube video here, and you can study what I'm doing and model it, or you can literally use the same system I'm using to generate cryptocurrency commissions, which I use to just keep building up my Bitcoin and altcoin portfolio. You can do the same thing. Look for the link underneath this video, and be sure to subscribe to this video so you can get more updates and reviews on things and support in generating cryptocurrency commissions through automation.